Failure in selling is what leads to success in the long term. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a really embarrassing failure that I had that I'm laughing about right now as I recall it. I was at the Gallup organization as a vice president of business development. I had just started and I was paired with probably the nicest guy in the world, a guy by the name of James Rapinack. Super nice guy. He was my sales partner and he had set up 3 meetings for me in one day in Boston. So I got on the shuttle from New York City in LaGuardia Airport and I flew up to Logan and I met him at 7:30 in the morning. We had a cup of coffee and we reviewed the 3 meetings we were going on. And the first 2 meetings during the day were fine. They were generic sales meetings and I was taught that as a consultant you go in and you do a presentation. So I had a computer with me and James was carrying a screen and we did a whole dog and pony show at each meeting. So the first meeting I had was in the morning, the second meeting was right around lunchtime, and the third meeting was at the end of the day, right before I was going to catch the shuttle back to New York City. It was a long day for me. It was a long day for both of us. And the nicest guy in the world, James, sets up all these meetings and he walks in and he always introduces me. We get to the third meeting and it was with a group called, the retail group was called the Casual Male. That was the name of the retail chain, the Casual Male. And I was meeting with the vice president of marketing, senior vice president of marketing, guy who was in charge of marketing. And my presentation was on brand management and how we could measure the success of their brand and help them become even more successful. This is a clothing chain that made clothing for people who had odd sizes. Either they were large, portly individuals, or they were extremely tall. But that's what the clothing chain was about. And it was the senior vice president of marketing, guy who's in charge of marketing, and the number 2 person in marketing in the whole company. And they had, 100 and some odd stores. They were successful. So we walk into the room and we set everything up, and then once we're finished setting up, James goes out and tells the woman at the desk, okay, we're ready, and these 2 gentlemen walk in. So I go into my dog and pony show after James introduces me, and I'm doing my presentation stuff, and I look like, I've done this a million times. I'm polished, I'm in an impeccable suit. And the guy stops me, the senior vice president of marketing, and he says, I don't want to see a presentation. All I want to know is what you can do for me. And I said, I'm going to tell you what I can do for you. Just give me a second. And I continue to go into my presentation, and I'm pointing, and I'm giving him a talk, and he stops me again. He said, maybe you didn't hear me. I don't want a presentation. What can you do that's going to help our company make more money? And I said, I'm almost at that part. Just give me a second. And I go back into my presentation and I'm talking, and the gentleman at that point stands up, turns to his partner, and he says, just give me 1 second. Walks over to a phone, picks up the phone, dials a couple of numbers, and says, we're going to need you over in the lake room. And he hangs up. And he sits back down. I continue to talk, and I'm doing my presentation, and I'm, my whole bit. And in walk 2 gentlemen in suits, and the 2 people at the table stand up. The VP of marketing points, and he says, that gentleman right over there. These 2 guys grab my arms, and they escort me out of the building. The guy called security on me. He called security on me and threw me out of the building, physically removed me from the building. Now, 2 things about that. The first thing is, that guy was a jerk, okay? He was a complete jerk. But the second thing is, I was a moron, okay? This person didn't want a presentation. The guy told me twice he didn't want a presentation. And I didn't have the presence of mind to stop and just answer his questions and talk to him about what his needs were, develop a relationship, and maybe then offer to help him. I didn't have the presence of mind to do that. Instead, I was physically removed from the headquarters of the Casual Male. Well, that was the last presentation, a PowerPoint presentation I've ever done in a sales meeting. And the nicest guy in the world, James Rapinack, was absolutely floored that they had thrown me out of the room. But today I have that great story to tell. Now here's where this is important for you. Number one, if you're upset because you got a door slammed in your face, or somebody hung up the phone on you, or somebody told you that your stuff stinks, or you can't sell, forget about it. That's about them. That's not about you, okay? Second thing, don't do presentations. Ask questions, develop relationships, find out how you can help, and then, only then, after you do that, offer to help the other person. And third, if you're on a presentation with the nicest guy in the world, let the nicest guy in the world do the talking first, and then you listen and make sure you understand what's going on before you open your mouth. Now, take away from this the fact that I just closed a big deal. I make a great living doing this, helping people sell, and I sell myself. I mean, 90% of what I do is introducing myself to others and offering to help them. But I still get beat up all the time, and I still have sales calls that don't go the way I want them to. That's gonna happen, and that's part of this. But the key is to forget those failures, learn from them, but then forget them, and move on and think about, revel in the successes that you have. Because if you don't think like that, you'll never be able to do this. Forget the failures, learn from them, take away the learning, and then forget the situation, unless, of course, you want to have a great story just like this to tell to your friends and your family.